Part two of my reply for need this message. So I was acknowledging the factor that I watch your content and I know you watch mine. Initially, it was to go ahead and be able to see the very moment that you could point out that I ended up being everything that you were expecting that I was going to be. The same pattern that the predators that ended up going ahead and attempting to disempower you ended up having in common. Difference is you're one of the few people that looked and didn't see a hopeless cause. Yeah, I'm already aware of how self-righteous that I am. How sturdy in my beliefs that I am. Frustrating to a fault. And I do constantly work on change. But at the same time, I am a harder nut to crack than most. Difference is, I never stopped trying. I don't know if that's what frustrates you or fascinated you. I mean, pretty much the entirety of my childhood, I ended up getting referred to as either a psychopath or a sociopath and everything. So for people to end up going ahead and finding out that I do try to reach some of the worst cases that society has to offer nowadays that's not imprisoned, and try to help them understand emotion, that one, I could tell that one really threw you off guard. Because it's like, wait, what what do you get out of it? Debt, frustration, an inferiority complex, understanding that my goal is a hell of a lot bigger than I am. So nothing really a benefit other than maybe understanding. I've been able to feel a hell of a lot more than anybody gave me credit for. I grieve. I feel sorrow. I feel anger. I feel frustration. I feel nostalgia. I feel melancholy. The one thing that I don't feel very often is understood or perceived. There have been people that have tried really hard. And you know what? For those people, I have so much more respect for them than I could ever vocalize. But you know as well as I do the impulse and the instinct that I fight on a constant basis. I think when you first started watching, you thought that I was going to be the same misogynistic, stubborn, sexist, entitled douchebag that I could admit that I'm a product of nature of. That simultaneously had to fight that very nature. Funny thing is, the whole, demasculating me thing, what started that actually was 4 years old. I ended up getting told by one of the patriarchs of my family, when you grow up, I'm going to teach you to smoke and drink and curse like a man. Without second thought, I ended up saying, if that's requirements to be a man, then I don't want to be one. So my family ended up dogpiling me for the entirety of my life. Going to emasculate me. Funny thing is, nowadays I understand exactly how profound at 4 years old that really was to say. But it did also make that same patriarch feel one-upped, which ultimately ended up being a bruise to their ego. Obviously, that couldn't stand. That could explain the foster homes, group homes, thrown in and out of psychiatric wards. Literally anything that my family was able to do to try to spend as close to no time with me as possible. Like, we were talking, the attempts to have me put up for adoption happened repeatedly. But even the people that claimed that they wanted kids didn't want me. The problem child. Funny thing is, that last group home, they basically thought, so you got a parent. You're lucky. You got something that we don't. With them not realizing that was basically the last placement to age out of, the foster system. And that ultimately, I hadn't been with my family, consistently, since the point that I was 10, 11. So they saw it as we had nothing in common, and that I should count my blessings. That I had something that they wished they could have. That they've desired but didn't have the chance to be able to have. Not knowing the abuse. Not knowing the constant barrage. The neglect. The ripping away of any opportunity that I would attempt to earn. Because the funny thing is, imagine calling somebody lazy that was constantly doing what they had to do to be able to earn a little bit of money, just so that way that the bills didn't end up falling behind at home. I mean, quite literally, I was in elementary school selling candy at lunchtime, going ahead and gathering together what money that I could to be able to help keep it from the lights getting cut off. So when I say quite literally that I've worked the entirety of my life, I quite mean child labor, like child slave labor. When I end up telling that, I don't tell it as a pity party. I tell it because of the factor that I know that there are some people that have had it worse than others. And I know they say some of the people with the biggest smiles have had the hardest of lives. I don't doubt your struggle. Never once have they ever undersold it. And I understand right now the reason that you stuck around, despite the fact that what brought you around, was to have your implicit bias that you didn't even realize that you had to be validated. But the factor that you were able to be taken off guard and surprised, and even just the desire to be better than what I was told that I'd ever be able to be. That's what's made you want to stick around for the rebuilding. So I just wanted to, number one, tell you, I see you there. And when I say you're seen, I mean you are seen. Like, you know, the way that when I'm going ahead and dogging the ever living fuck out of people that end up preying on people in vulnerable populations, staring right into that camera like I'm staring right into their soul. I mean, I'm seeing you at that depth. And I want you to know, I don't see a bad person. I think that was probably what was most disappointing in your circumstance when you end up watching me. But I do want to say you do frustrate me as much as I frustrate you. I think that that is as mutual as anything. So, when you go ahead and make the Neo references and everything, understand too. I, I find it amusing. I find it to be that inside joke because, you know, with Neo, with the when coming out of the Matrix, you know, it getting pulled out of his skull, you know, my circumstance, you know, pulling the feeding tube for the life support out of my throat. Yeah, I got the reference. But I find it a little more endearing than I should. And I just gotta say, I could get a good laugh too in the circumstance of like when people make deep throating jokes. You're never gonna be able to deep throat as deep as a feeding tube when you're in a vegetative state. So I'm just saying the uh, the double endedness of that joke is pretty funny. But yeah, whenever you end up going pretty hard and getting on me, I don't take it personal. I understand I just triggered a battle that you didn't expect yourself to ever have to fight within yourself. I've gotten taken off guard in that way too. So I I'd be a fucking hypocrite if I were to go ahead and be upset about it. But yeah, keep helping me keep honest with myself. And if anything that I keep doing with my progress helps you within your journey, then I'm glad the experience is capable of being mutual.